I only basically started doing it for the sake of my kid. I thought it might be nice when he gets to 15 to say my dad once was on television and made 2 records and played 2 shows or something. And there's a scrapbook, you know, but then it escalated.
But you've now become a sort of collector of memorabilia for...
Well, I just carried on, really, because nobody else bothered, and I thought at one time it might be worth doing to donate to a museum or something as a cultural thing, you know, and because I was talking to Paul of the Beatles once, and I said, you're supposed to have amazing archives, and he says, we haven't got nothing. And I showed him a couple of videos of some of their early shows in America, which he'd never seen before, and I thought, oh. And they started collecting from that day, and I've been collecting all along, and it's very difficult to hang on to it now because everybody's after it.
You've become also a walking dictionary of what happened on what dates. Is this something you've always had a memory for knowing exactly what happened when?
Yeah, I have a good memory, and Keith has a very good memory as well. Mick is hopeless, and so is Charlie. And of course, Woody's only been with us for 7 years. I mean, he's a new boy, he doesn't know much.
So when was the first time the Rolling Stones were filmed in colour?
Oh, no, a minute. 7 minutes film of Pathé Pictorial at the Hull ABC Theatre. September '64, I think.
And the song?
Just before the Tammy show, which was in black and white in America. The song was Around and Around.
I said the joint was rocking, going round and round. Yeah, reeling and rocking, while a crazy sound. And they never stopped rocking till the moon went down. It sounds so sweet, I had to take me a chance. Rose out of my seat, I just had to dance. Started moving my feet, rolled a club in my hands. I said the joint was rocking, going round and round. Yeah, reeling and rocking, got a crazy sound. And never stopped rocking.
By 1964, when Jagger started working on his athletic, balletic, erotic stage act, with a slightly ungainly imitation of the great black American singer James Brown, the Stones were already causing riots.
Well, we weren't as commercial as the Beatles, and we didn't make such good records or write such good songs as them, you know, but we played better on stage. That's the difference. The Stones were always better on stage than they were on record. So when people came to see us, they really got impressed and always came to see us again. Whereas when they came to see bands like the Searchers and, the Mersey Beats and those kind of bands that were around, and Dave Clark 5, they were disappointed by the on-stage performance. The records were good, but so they thought, you know. But the on-stage thing didn't happen, so we always won over everybody in that way. We always had great crowds coming to see us.
Well, this could be the last time. This could be the last time. Maybe the last time. I don't know. Oh, no.
The Stones couldn't go on wildly rehashing the blues forever. Like the Beatles, they had to learn to write their own material. Jagger and Richards had to be like Lennon and McCartney.
Up until that point, a songwriter was almost as divorced to me from what I did as a blacksmith or a drummer or something. You know, I mean, I'm a guitar player, that's what I did, and that's what I considered that I was good for. I didn't conceive the fact that I could write songs or anything, until Andrew Oldham locked me in the kitchen with Mick for 2 nights and said, come out with a song, you know. And
so how did you go about doing it? Just by doing it?
yeah, he kind of put it to us like that, come out with a song, you know, and we said, okay, log it in, we'll try it. You know, I think you're barking up the wrong tree, actually. I don't see how we're going to...
You didn't see it at all?
No, not at all. But once you've written the first one, then it's easy. You know? I mean, it's not easy, but it's, at least you know that you can do it.
The final ingredient in the heady Stones cocktail in the 60s was their image and their very attitude. Rebellious, anti-establishment, scruffy individual, just one step ahead of the whole 60s counterculture upheaval. But were they just being themselves, or was it all carefully planned?
We didn't wear stage uniforms, the first band ever, not to, because we didn't have the money for them, really, and we didn't care about them. And at that time we were refused like rebookings at places because we didn't wear makeup and get into stage clothes. You know, we used to arrive at a gig and the guy would say, you're late, you haven't got your makeup on, you haven't changed or anything. And we'd say, well, no, we're not, we're early, we're ready. Do you want us to go on now? No, you have 10 more minutes, you know, so we were always early for gigs.
So it wasn't a deliberately tailored anti-image, it was just
no, it was
the way
just
you were?
come off the street and onto the stage, really. And it was, if they like it, great, and if they don't, we use it as a rehearsal.
I'm pretty sure that Andy Oldham and Mick, with the knowledge of Keith certainly and Charlie, but not necessarily particular input, planned the bad boy image very carefully and very deliberately as the antidote to the goodness of the Beatles. It was to be the reaction. Now, it was the you don't want to be goodies, come and join us. And it was planned and it worked beautifully. At the same time, they wrote the sort of songs that totally suited their image. I mean, absolutely and completely. It was, I think, the best conceived and executed image job of any of them. It's held good for 20 years as an image.
An image for bad times as well as good. But the Stones' image and music has changed subtly with every era. They paid homage to peace, love and hippiedom, while giving the impression that maybe they were a little too wild and tough for all that. So when the hippie fantasies fell apart, they could provide the soundtrack for the more brutal side of the 70s. From the Vietnam War to their own personal tragedies, the murders at the free concert at Altamont, or the mysterious death of the Stones' founder member Brian Jones. They were startling, sensual, disturbing, and never too specific about their beliefs. People could read into them what they wanted.
People sort of use them rather like a Chinese wall on which you can secretly go out and write any slogan you like at night about anybody, and the next morning the whole world can read it. And I mean, Mick or Keith are sort of blank walls on which you put your image. And if they don't behave the way you think they should, you then complain that they aren't being what they are. It's what you think they are that they're not being, not what they are.
Let's look over to the right first. We'll work round. Right to left.
Their image, which for the public at large disguised their musical skills, was that of outlaws with a hedonistic bent. They were bound to be in trouble with the law, and they often were, usually over drugs. Jagger and Richards were both jailed, briefly, in the summer of '67. And for the next 10 years there were drug charges, usually involving Richards. In 1977, in Toronto, Richards was charged with trafficking in heroin, but given a suspended sentence and told to continue his treatment to cure heroin addiction. Since then, he says, he's given it up.
The very fact that I was a total junkie for almost 10 years leaves me now realizing that it didn't worry me too much then because of the very nature of heroin. You know, nothing worries you. It goes along musician's life and always has done, you know, because of the ups and downs, the adrenaline, the energy, the making the gig the next day when you're totally drained, and it's passed on from one generation of musicians to the next, you know. And looking back on it, I'm amazed that they didn't get onto it a lot earlier, you know.
And at the end of all that, the band have actually survived and been transformed. What was once considered highly controversial is now mass market, big business, even family entertainment. "20 years on, Jagger is now something of an enigmatic socialite who has no complaints about the changing attitudes of his audience.
Well, yeah, to them it's obviously different to what it was for the generation before, but I mean, yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm not going to argue with them. I mean, if they want to have a good time, then come and have a good time with us, we don't mind.
But they are not without their critics, especially after the pop music upheavals of the last 5 years. Of course, it's extraordinary that the Stones keep going and attract worldwide audiences by the million. But have they lost their early musical idealism in the process?
I think they've sold out to some degree. I think they lost the spirit of those days, you know. And I think they could have done a lot more. They could put a lot, you know, there's no harm in putting things back into things. You know?
Back in what sense?
Back into the evolution of music, back into the evolution of taste. And particularly since most of their thing was blues-based and rhythm and blues-based, they could have done a lot more to help those people.
Well, having borrowed the music from black musicians, they could have helped black musicians back.
For instance, you know. And also, since by the time, and even now they have all this tremendous power, they could do something a little bit more constructive with it and just, you know, sort of like perpetrating of their image and their egos.
Meanwhile, the machine rolls on. In 10 days' time, the Rolling Stones end their present spate of concerts with a show at Leeds on the eve of Mick Jagger's 39th birthday. What will they do for the next 20 years?
I actually read something the other day which, after those Scottish gigs, which suggested that there was now no reason why the Stones couldn't be Sinatra and Bing Crosby, which I thought was an amazing kind of comparison. But you see, the thing is with rock and roll that nobody's ever done it that long enough for the idea of older people to play it. You know, it's been, which no doubt people thought about jazz in the 20s. You know, it would be inconceivable.
Nobody thought that Louis Armstrong could keep going more than 25 or 30.
But I mean, I play with Muddy Waters, for instance, in Chicago. And he's no young guy anymore, but he's playing as good as ever, you know, and if he can do it, sure I can. You know, given the few obvious things like not having my hands chopped off or anything.